Today we're reading out of As Bill Sees It, the references to honesty. Michael's going to start us out on 17, Toward Honesty.
Yes, page 17, Toward Honesty. The perverse wish to hide a bad motive underneath a good one permeates human affairs from top to bottom. This subtle and elusive kind of self-righteousness can underlie the smallest act or thought. Learning daily to spot, admit, and correct these flaws is the essence of character building and good living. The deception of others is nearly always rooted in the deception of ourselves. Somehow being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person. Until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden, our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical. When we are honest with another person, it confirms that we have been honest with ourselves and with God.
Okay, on page 20, Light from a Prayer. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We treasure our serenity prayer because it brings a new light to us that can dissipate our old-time and nearly fatal habit of fooling ourselves. In the radiance of this prayer, we see that defeat, rightly accepted, need be no disaster. We now know that we do not have to run away, nor ought we again try to overcome adversity by still another bulldozing power drive that can only push up obstacles before us faster than they can be taken down.
Page 44. Daily acceptance. Too much of my life has been spent in dwelling upon the faults of others. This is a most subtle and perverse form of self-satisfaction, which permits us to remain comfortably unaware of our own defeats. Too often we are heard to say, if it weren't for him or her, how happy I'd be. Our first problem is to accept our present circumstances as they are, ourselves as we are, and the people about us as they are. This is to adopt a realistic humility without which no genuine advance can even begin. Again and again, we shall need to return to that unflattering point of departure. This is an exercise in acceptance that we can profitably practice every day of our lives. Provided we strenuously avoid turning these realistic surveys of the facts of life into unrealistic alibis for apathy or defeatism, they can be the sure foundation upon which increased emotional health and therefore spiritual progress can be built.
Okay, 52, To guard against a slip. Suppose we fall short of our chosen ideals and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. These are facts out of our experience.
Page 70, Truth, the Liberator. How truth makes us free is something that we AAs can well understand. It cuts the shackles that once bound us to alcohol. It continues to release us from conflicts and miseries beyond reckoning. It banishes fear and isolation, the unity of our fellowship, the love we cherish for each other, the esteem in which the world holds us. All of these are products of the truth which, under God, we have been privileged to perceive. Just how and when we tell the truth or keep silent can often reveal the difference between genuine integrity and none at all. Step 9 emphatically cautions us against misusing the truth when it states we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others, because it points up the fact that the truth can be used to injure as well as to heal. This valuable principle certainly has wide-ranging application to the problem of developing integrity.
Okay. 7.4. Breach the walls of ego. People who are driven by pride of self unconsciously bind themselves to their liabilities. Newcomers of this sort scarcely need comforting. The problem is to help them discover a chink in the walls their ego has built through which the light of reason can shine. The attainment of greater humility is a foundation principle of each of AA's 12 steps. For without some degree of humility, no alcoholic can stay sober at all. Nearly all AAs have found, too, that unless they develop much more of this precious quality than may be required just for sobriety, they still haven't much chance of becoming truly happy. Without it, they cannot live to much useful purpose, or, in adversity, be able to summon the faith that can meet any emergency.
Page 83, page 83, we cannot live alone. All of AA's 12 steps ask us to go contrary to our natural desires. They all deflate our egos. When it comes to ego deflation, few steps are harder to take than the fifth. Scarcely any step is more necessary to long-time sobriety and peace of mind. AA experience has taught us we cannot live alone with our pressing problems and the character defects which cause or aggravate them. If step 4 has revealed in stark relief those experiences we'd rather not remember, then the need to quit living by ourselves with those tormenting ghosts of yesterday gets more urgent than ever. We have to talk to somebody about them. We cannot wholly rely on friends to solve all our difficulties. A good advisor will never do all our thinking for us. He knows that each final choice must be ours. He will therefore help to eliminate fear, expediency, and self-deception, so enabling us to make choices which are loving, wise, and honest.
Okay, 102. Healing talk. When we consult an AA friend, we should not be reluctant to remind him of our need for full privacy. Intimate communication is normally so free and easy among us that an AA advisor may sometimes forget when we expect him to remain silent. The protective sanctity of this most healing of human relations ought never be violated. Such privileged communication have priceless advantages. We find them the perfect opportunity to be as honest as we know how to be. We do not have to think of the possibility of damage to other people, nor need we fear ridicule or condemnation. Here, too, we have the best possible chance of spotting self-deception.
Okay.
140.
Page 140, defects and repairs. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. Guilt is really the reverse side of the coin of pride. Guilt aims at self-destruction, and pride aims at the destruction of others. The moral inventory is a cool examination of the damages that occurred to us during life and a sincere effort to look at them in a true perspective. This has the effect of taking the ground glass out of us, the emotional substance that still cuts and inhibits.
141. Restore us to sanity. Few indeed are the practicing alcoholics who have any idea how irrational they are, or, seeing their irrationality, can bear to face it. For example, some will be willing to term themselves problem drinkers, but cannot endure the suggestion that they are, in fact, mentally ill. They are, what's that word? They are abetted. I don't even know what that word is. They are abetted in this blindness by a world which does not understand the difference between sane drinking and alcoholism. Sanity is defined as soundness of mind, yet no alcoholic soberly analyzing his destructive behavior, whether destruction fell on the dining room furniture or his own moral fiber, can claim soundness of mind for himself. 156.
Go to page 156. Perception of humility. An improved perception of humility starts a revolutionary change in our outlook. Our eyes begin to open to the immense values which have come straight out of painful ego puncturing. Until now, our lives have been largely devoted to running from pain and problems. Escape via the bottle was always our solution. Then in AA, we looked and listened. Everywhere we saw failure and misery transformed by humility to priceless assets. To those who have made progress in AA, humility amounts to a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be.
172. This matter of honesty. Only God can fully know what absolute honesty is. Therefore, each of us has to conceive what this great ideal may be to the best of our ability. Fallible as we are and will be in this life, it would be presumption to suppose that we could ever really achieve absolute honesty. The best we can do is to strive for better quality of honesty. Sometimes we need to place love ahead of indiscriminate factual honesty. We cannot, under the guise of perfect honesty, cruelly and unnecessarily hurt others. Always one must ask, what is the best and most loving thing I can do?
Page 173, Roots of Reality. We started upon a personal inventory, step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We had to do exactly the same thing with our lives. We had to take stock honestly. Moments of perception can build into a lifetime of spiritual serenity. And as I have excellent reason to know, Roots of Reality supplementing the neurotic underbrush will hold fast despite the high winds of forces which would destroy us, or which we would use to destroy ourselves.
205. Virtue and self-deception. I used to take comfort from an exaggerated belief of my own honesty. My New England kinfolk had taught me the sanctity of all business comments and contracts, saying a man's word is his bond. After this rigorous conditioning, business honesty always came easy. I never flim-flammed anyone. However, this small fragment of readily won virtue did precede some interesting liabilities. I never failed to whip up a fine contempt for those of my fellow Wall Streeters who were prone to shortchange their customers. This was arrogant enough, but the ensuing self-deception proved even worse. My prized business honesty was presently converted into a comfortable cloak under which I could hide the many serious flaws that had beset other departments of my life. Being certain of this one virtue, it was easy to conclude that I had them all. For years on end, this prevented me from taking a good look at myself. 213.
Complete the house cleaning. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves shoddy facts about their lives. Trying to avoid the humbling experience of the fifth step, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. They had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else their entire life story.
222. Who is to blame?
Ooh, that's like my favorite.
At step 4, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though a given situation had not been entirely our fault, we often tried to cast the whole blame on the other person involved. We finally saw that the inventory should be ours, not the other man's. So we admitted our wrongs honestly and became willing to set these matters straight. 227.
227. Is sobriety enough? The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. He is like the farmer who came up out of his cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. 8 grand, the wind stopped blowing." We ask ourselves what we mean when we say that we have harmed other people. What kinds of harm do people do one another anyway? To define the word harm in a practical way, we might call it the result of instincts in collision, which cause physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual damage to those about us.
238.
Another one.
Maudlin martyrdom. Self-pity is one of the most unhappy and consuming defects that we know. It is a bar to all spiritual progress and can cut off all effective communication with our fellows because it is an inordinate demands for attention and sympathy. It is a maudlin form of martyrdom which we can ill afford. The remedy, well, let's have a hard look at ourselves and a still harder one at AA's 12 steps to recovery. When we see how many of our fellow AAs have used this step to transcend great pain and adversity, we should be inspired to try these life-giving principles for ourselves.
248.
248.
Need outside help. It was evident that a solitary self-appraisal and the admission of our defects based upon that alone wouldn't be nearly enough. We have to have outside help if we were surely to know and admit the truth about ourselves, the help of God and of another human being. Only by discussing ourselves, holding back nothing, only by willing to take advice and accept direction, could we set foot on the road to straight thinking, solid honesty, and genuine humility. If we are fooling ourselves, a competent advisor can see this quickly. And as he skillfully guides us away from our fantasies, we are surprised to find that we have few of the usual urges to defend ourselves against unpleasant truths. In no other way can fear, pride, and ignorance be so readily melded. After a time, we realize that we are standing firm on a brand new foundation for integrity, and we gratefully credit our sponsors whose advice pointed the way. 251.
251. Face the music.
Ooh.
Do not be too discouraged about that slip. Practically always, we drunks learn the hard way. Your idea of moving on to somewhere else may be good, or it may not. Perhaps you have got into an emotional or economic jam that can't be well handled where you are. But maybe you are doing just what all of us have done at one time or another. Maybe you're running away. Why don't you try to think that through again carefully? Are you really placing recovery first, or are you making it contingent upon other people, places, or circumstances? You may find it ever so much better to face the music right where you are at now, and with the help of the AA program, win through. Before you make a decision, weigh it in these terms.
258. Beneath the surface. Some will object to many of the questions that should be answered in a moral inventory because they think their own character defects have not been so glaring. To these, it can be suggested that a conscious examination is likely to reveal the very defects the objectionable questions are concerned with. Because our service record hasn't looked too bad, we have frequently been abashed to find that this is so simply because we have buried these self-same defects deep down in us under thick layers of self-justification. Those were the defects that finally ambushed us into alcoholism and misery.
277. To lighten our burden. Only one consideration should qualify our desire for a complete disclosure of the damage we have done. That will arise where a full revelation would seriously harm the one whom we are making amends, to whom we are making amends, or quite as important, other people. We cannot, for example, unload a detailed account of extramarital adventure upon the shoulders of our unsuspecting wife or husband. It does not lighten our burden when we recklessly make the cross of others heavier. In making amends, we should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone.
279. The fine art of alibi. The majority of AA members have suffered severely from self-justification during their drinking days. For most of us, self-justification was the maker of excuses for drinking, and for all kinds of crazy and damaging conduct. We have made the invention of alibis a fine art. We had to drink because times were hard or times were good. We had to drink because at home we were smothered with love or got none at all. We had to drink because at work we were great successes or dismal failures. We had to drink because our nation had won a war or lost a peace. And so it went ad infinitum. To see how our own erratic emotions victimized us often took a long time. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thoughts.
Okay. 295. Praying rightly. We thought we had been deeply serious about religious practices. However, upon honest appraisal, we found that we had been most superficial, or sometimes going to extremes. We had wallowed in the emotions and had also mistaken this for true religious feelings. In both cases, we had been asking something for nothing. We had not prayed rightly. We had always said, "Grant me my wishes," instead of "Thy will be done." The love of God and man we understood not at all. Therefore, we remained self-deceived and so incapable of receiving enough grace to restore us to sanity.
And our final reading is 3:12. Tolerance keeps us sober. Honesty with ourselves and with others gets us sober, but it is tolerance that keeps us that way. Experience shows that few alcoholics will long stay away from a group just because they don't like the way it is run. Most return and adjust themselves to whatever conditions they must. Some go to a different group or form a new one. In other words, once an alcoholic fully realizes that he cannot get well alone, he will somehow find a way to get well and stay well in the company of others. It has been that way from the beginning of AA and probably always will be so. Awesome. All right.
Good readings.